now?
Yeah, can mate. How are you doing?
Yeah. How are you? I'm fine. Good evening.
I think you win in the best hair competition.
Ah, that's a compliment. Yeah, I mean, many people have been saying this, so I'm quite accustomed to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But it's great, when I came across the things that you were single-handedly doing, you and two to three other people were doing. I was like, and to such a great audience engagement, that was fantastic. I mean, we often submit films to festivals and uh, it gets screened. We don't even know how it gets screened and what exactly was individual response, but it's great you guys are doing this.
no, I appreciate that, and it's a lot of work, a lot of admin. But when we see films like Vapourless and Exit Through the Window, it really means
Yeah,
really kind of
yeah,
get a feeling what people are going through. Obviously,
mm,
there's a lot of the whole kind of range of films we get from um,
mm,
drama, a narrative,
mm,
sci-fi horror, like documentary or experimental, like Vaporless,
yeah,
which I really
yeah,
liked. And obviously, I'll have to have a warning on because of all the strobing and flashing lights. But I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure,
So,
right.
what kind
So
of
it was actually so basically the vaporless. Um, I was in my hostel back then when the nationwide lockdown was announced in India, and so all the shops were closed and everything were closed, and there were very few people in my hostel. Most of them went back to their room. I didn't go back for certain reasons, and suddenly the bulbs, I mean the tube lights started flickering, and you don't have a shop to change that tube light. You don't have any technician, so I had to stay through that for an entire week until it stopped blinking at all.
oh,
And
really?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that was a very sort of psychedelic experience I was going through. So it's just a series of images, so you can actually perceive movement,
Hmm.
if you
Absolutely.
think of it philosophically, because what is movement? It's maybe, the origin of cinema is like that. It's stitching together photos and animation, the logic of animation is there. So when I was moving about in my room and I was perceiving the room in objects, image, that made me think about movement and how fragmented most of the time our consciousness is.
Yeah.
And it's
Absolutely.
I
Because
mean,
like
mm,
everyone's lives are like that now. They're all bits and pieces and broken, and there's
yeah,
no sense of routine, or you you have to find a new routine now. And
right,
I I really liked how you used the problem you were having with your lights as a editing technique. So going from one shot to another,
right,
creating quicker sequences towards the end. Um, and yeah, you can
right,
read into that in so many different ways. You can read into it as horror or
absolutely,
a documentary of what you're
mm,
going through, like therapy, like
absolutely,
like kind of shock therapy almost. Like in some
right,
films, you
yeah,
see shock therapy through light and images, like a Clockwork Orange, that the guy goes
yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah, mm, mm.
So yeah, I thought it was excellent. I really enjoyed Vaporless, and
Oh, thank you,
when
thank
was
you
it
very much.
yourself?
Actually, the
Was it yourself that had COVID, or was it your dad, or was it both?
yeah, my dad had it, and he was diagnosed with COVID, but I had symptoms, but it was not, signaled as positive.
Yeah,
I had a slight fever, but I did a test. It was not positive stuff. But still, I had to get quarantined. And
yeah,
but the thing which you said about therapy is pretty interesting. Because exit through the window, shooting that was a therapeutic process. When we were in quarantine and stuff.
yeah. Because a camera, whether it's stills or video, it can get you through things, and it can be a protective cover in many ways. You
Right.
can almost step out of reality in many ways because you're really trying to construct a shot or tell a story.
Mm.
and you're kind of really enveloped in that, and and
Right.
I just loved how it was just observational, and that could be like in a
Absolutely.
gallery kind of thing, where as an
Mm-hmm.
installation, or it can be read into
Yeah.
it's almost like, I wouldn't say you need the description that you submitted with Film Freeway to tell a story. I think you've just got enough text at the beginning to say what it's
Right.
about. And I had COVID in December. I had COVID pneumonia, and all,
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a hospital bed, all you can see is the ward. And my escape was taking photographs in the ward.
Wow.
So it was a very similar process. So I kind of really appreciate you submitting that. And yeah,
Right.
it's extremely difficult. And the
Mm.
world knows how bad the situation India's in now in terms of COVID.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
you're in the east part of the country. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. But I stay in Delhi, which is the capital in central India. But my home is in the eastern part, where I am right now.
So where was that? Where was Exit Through the Window shot?
Exit Through the Window was shot in Kolkata, in my hometown. So I shot Vapourless when I was stuck in my hostel, and I came back to Kolkata after the flights started functioning, and the lockdown started losing up a bit. And then I came back, and when things started becoming better for people around us, suddenly my dad got COVID, and then we again went into the quarantine, whole that quarantine thing. So
Yeah.
what I was also thinking about is that isolation. Like, one of my ideas is that whenever we are talking about isolation during COVID or during quarantine, it many of the times people think in terms of interior monologues. People go into themselves, think about themselves, and engage in a
Absolutely.
deep conversation.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, it is also about your non-place, your disjunction from the world outside or the world around you. So when I was observing the neighboring street from a window, from a very single point of view, single vantage, everything that was happening around, it had no direct relation to me, as if I was an invisible eye almost
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So that also translates to a feeling of alienation and isolation.
Absolutely. Have you seen Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And that's a photographer. James Stewart's character is a photographer that travels the world and doesn't want to be
Right,
in the film. He doesn't want to be tied down to being married to Grace Kelly, and the idea that he's stuck in a wheelchair, like temporarily, with his broken leg, and he's just got the window
right,
to look out. He's just observing the world, and
absolutely.
that's it's fascinating when you just stare out of a window in your own house, no matter what. And if there's a reason
Hmm.
to do it, you start to see so much more. And
Absolutely.
it's like when if you
There's no,
travel. Sorry, go on.
no, no.
Go.
You were saying if you
So yeah,
travel, yeah.
if you say you've got visitors from outside your city that come to see you, friends or whoever, you start seeing
Hmm.
your own hometown, your own city in different ways. You start observing more things. So
Hmm.
it's really interesting what you saw, because there's so many
Right.
different things, and if you were there long enough, you would start seeing
Hmm.
repetition in people's behavior as well.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I found the kind of the road activity really fascinating. With I think it's the guys that are putting the concrete on the ground.
Right.
So
Right. Hmm.
there's lots to see and do, and it's really
Hmm.
fascinating. It's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
like something that
So
you could have a much longer
yeah.
film that's many hours just observing what you've seen.
Absolutely. So there is actually a film like this, by Viktor Kosakovsky. It's called Tishe. It's a
Okay.
Russian documentary film. So he also does this. So Kosakovsky was staying in a hotel near a road, sort of road division or something like that, and he stayed there for 12 months or 13
Wow.
months. I don't know, like for a long period of time. And what he did was just an observation uh, throughout. And the seasons are changing. The roads are breaking, roads are forming again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there are magical moments, like there's a lover waiting in the corner with a flower, and he gets dejected. There is a fight. So much is happening, and he captures it for, I think, a year or so. It's also so that has also been a reference point for me while I was shooting
Yeah.
Exit.
I think they're both really really good films. I like both for different reasons. Vapourless because I like the kind of editing technique and the reasoning, like you've explained, the reasoning behind the problem with the lights in the
Yeah, yeah.
room. Um, but
Hmm.
yeah, the interesting thing with Exit Through the Window is when you start observing other people, you start
Hmm.
fantasizing about what their lives are like, who they're visiting, what
Right,
they're going to
right,
do,
right, right.
why have they, what are they doing today, and it's
Hmm.
really fascinating. So, um,
And that gives you a sense of liberation, that you have so much control in your imagination of those people's
absolutely, yeah.
lives.
Well,
Sort of
that was one of the
agency.
reasons.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons we started the festival because we wanted to give people a place to kind of, you know, center their focus into their creativity because it's so difficult, extremely
Right.
difficult to be in isolation for such a long period. I found it
Mhm.
difficult initially when I was at home and I'm not going to work. It was my routine was everyone's routine was kind of destroyed.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
And in
it's
fact, the exit film, it was like shot for the entire span of 2 to 3 weeks during our quarantine.
so
But
is it on
all
and on and off?
no, 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 like 2 to 3 weeks at a stretch when
Oh
during the
wow,
quarantine
okay,
period. Hmm. And all the events that you see, many of the events are happening together. When the children are climbing up, like trying to pull down the kite, and on the other side there is a guy trying to repair the pole. All these events are not happening at the single time. They
yeah,
are very happening at a very different time. So once you isolate these incidents, put them together in the timeline, and you make a collage as if all these things correspond. So the and the guy is trying to get down a kite, and there is a kite shot. That kite is a shot from like 2 weeks after. Uh,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. Well,
so
that's
it's
the
like
interesting thing. You're constructing the narrative, so you're observing all
right,
of this, and then ideas are popping off in your head of what to do.
right, right.
And I really like that. It's a really fascinating way
Absolutely.
to kind of construct a film just through observation and then seeing what you've got. You kind of
Yeah.
shoot your coverage and seeing what you've got and putting it together.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, I
mm.
each time I watch it, I've watched it a few times now, and we've got two or three members of the team. There's Nadia and a couple of other people. Um, so yeah,
Okay.
I think they're really gonna appreciate the film, and yeah, we're gonna showcase.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I thank you. So it's Santasil, is that right? Your first
Yeah,
name?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just want
Mm.
to make sure I get that right. You see.
Yeah, that's my first name. Yeah, yeah. Shanti.
But yeah, it's thank you so much for submitting the films. And um, how did you find out about the festival?
Oh, actually, one of the guys who also got selected, he posted it on Facebook or any of the social media platform. So I saw the link there and I gave it a try. Actually, I am also associated with a festival, film festival. We run a sort of digital festival. It's called Sphere World Cinema Carnival. So there it's not only me, it's a large team, but we do screenings of primarily experimental works and works that are usually less shown or get less attention from you.
Yeah.
So I keep on searching through the list of festivals that are working now and stuff.
Oh, that's
So
great. So how did you kind of start? Where did your appreciation for experimental film start?
oh, actually, it start in fundamental acknowledgement of my failure to tell a story. Like so. See, so one day I was thinking like, what does storytelling mean? There is a if you break it, it's story and then it's telling. You have to tell. There is an affirmative activity in the
Yeah,
act of
absolutely.
telling. Yeah, but if you think of it, like, I think the way we have been taught about storytelling by, by narrative films and everything, it's like they feed you a story in most of the mainstream films, and in the most mainstream circuit, there is a plot tension, there is a climax, everything, there's a triangular structure and everything, and you take the story. But I will give you a small example. Okay, so
Please
there's
do.
a
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a water tank beside my house, like few places away from my house, which is also visible from another window of my house. So once I saw, like, usually during the day people go and take a bath. It's a public water tank. People take a bath, and then in the evening friends play around that area. And then one day, for example, there was a fight, like two people were fighting there, and then the police came and police resolved everything. Happened in 1 hour, it went away. So many things are happening in these junks, in passage. But all their stories, the water tank itself knows
Yeah.
their stories. It is a repository of their stories.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the water tank cannot say anything. It doesn't have the storytelling capacity, and even animals do not have a storytelling capacity. It's only humans that have a storytelling capacity, and that's what makes us human, I believe. So I was thinking that storytelling is not just about constructing, creating a narrative and giving it to your like the viewer. Sorry, it's about making certain things shine through on its own. That's what even
Absolutely.
exit through the window. And even I made a previous film called Farago, which is about these things. Like, you arrange the visuals, you put the visuals together and see what meanings they make visually, semantically. So this interaction, which is absolutely coming out of free association. Like, you are reading the film in a totally different sense. I will be reading a film in totally different sense. So it is a practice. I mean, if we do this, it makes people, aware and ready to enriches their reading practice, basically. Like, because otherwise everything is fed, like in Hollywood, popular Hollywood films, everything is fed to you. But when you're doing this sort of formulas and non-native works, people engage in a conscious activity, to uh, arrange it on their own, make meaning out of their own. So that reading practice is very necessary, and I thought that is how I can only tell a story, because it is very difficult for me to articulate a story. I can't articulate what happened to me yesterday to you right now in a very.
I think you can. I disagree with you to a certain degree, because the stories you tell in
Yeah,
those
yeah.
two films are really quite strong.
You're right.
It doesn't necessarily need this conversation to see that. Like, you can read into, or like art in any form,
Mm,
like any kind
mm,
of impressionistic or any kind of art form. You can read so much into it. You can like certain things. You can dislike different things to other people. And
mm.
Vaporless, in many ways, is how you. It's almost like you're inside someone's mind more so than the actual physical space. So yeah,
You're right.
I think you can tell a story in a really
Yeah, but yeah,
unique
right,
way, which is really great, because
right.
it's sometimes it's really difficult for people to um, appreciate and understand experimental film, because most experimental films on a gallery, on a screen somewhere in a museum or something like
Right.
that. So
Mm,
we started to get, including your two films, more and more experimental films. So we've got a really interesting selection. Thanks to yourself and the other filmmakers from India, this is the first time we've had films from. This is our second year now. This is the first time we've had
yeah,
films
yeah.
from India, which is amazing. And we had an animation from Iceland the other day. So we're getting films
Wow,
from
wow.
all over Argentina and North America, all over, which is great. So yeah, we absolutely
Absolutely
love.
fantastic.
We're gonna.
Mm,
This is new news. This is the first time I'll announce this. because of the
Okay.
number and the quality of the experimental films, we're gonna do a experimental film award. We've never done that
Wow.
before
Wow.
because it's really
Right.
subjective. It's really, I think it's something myself and a couple of other members of the team will pick rather than sending it to one of the judges. It's something
Right. Right.
really, you connect with certain material. And yeah, I really like experimental in many ways. And
Right.
sometimes having no context and not understanding where it's come from can be
Yeah.
a one way to watch it. If you read your
Right.
description on Film Freeway, you almost have that in your mind as you watch. So yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
excited by being able to award
Mm.
someone with best film for an experimental film, because
Yeah.
it's so different. And when I set the festival up this year, um,
Mhm.
I thought, why not? I ticked that box for experimental, and yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought it'd be good fun. And we've had some really interesting pieces, and
Right.
yeah,
Right.
some really
And also, yeah, it experimental work. I mean, what it does, it experiments with the very medium. Like how we can
absolutely,
rethink the medium. So it's probably not. So there is an argument, like you can say that experimental films are very niche. They don't reach out to the wider audience.
yeah,
They're very limited. Though there are many festivals that are trying, through innovative ways to screen the festivals. Like
yeah,
there's a organization called Punk Cinema Amsterdam,
okay,
and also Pugnant Cinema by Georges. So they basically screen these films outdoors, without people's knowledge. So one of my films got a screen, which is also an experimental work, under a bridge, and people had no idea. And
that's
suddenly there was
awesome.
a,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And it's not only my film, but many other different films. So, and suddenly you get, and it's very wrong to assume that, oh, like common people won't understand experimental film. So you don't know, like people, everyone will read experimental film differently
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
stuff. So that's so coming
that
back to the
must have
point.
been.
So
That must have been.
yeah.
Was that during the day, or was that in the evening? The
Yeah, yeah, of
during,
course. Yeah, it was in Amsterdam. It was in the evening.
oh, awesome. That must have been. That's a great idea and great kind of
Right.
screening. That's really cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it takes you away from that comfort of gallery spaces and
Absolutely,
museums.
the kind
And
of
and the entire
almost, yeah,
and the entire
yeah,
idea of a concept note and everything, a theoretical
exactly,
knowledge you have
yeah,
to have. No, it's nothing. It's just pure cinema playing on the flesh of a broken bridge or an abandoned prison. So it's very
yeah,
interesting how. Mm. Actually,
yeah.
we were
It's
trying to do things like this, but the lockdown started and we couldn't do. Like we are hoping to do such screenings in the future in India via
yeah,
the Sphere Festival.
it's so difficult not being able to go to the I love cinema, as you can probably tell by some of the pictures in the background. I love watching movies, love
Yeah,
making shorts, that kind
right.
of thing.
Yeah.
And I've not been to the cinema since I saw Tenet, Christopher Nolan's film.
Oh,
And
oh, okay, yeah. Hmm.
I wasn't a big fan. But yeah, it's I love going to the
What
cinema.
you didn't like it?
Tenet, no, I really didn't like it. I love Christopher
Okay.
Nolan. I think he's a brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant
yeah,
visionary filmmaker. But
yeah,
I thought the idea of the taking things backwards and all that, it kind of
yeah.
the hook didn't
Hmm.
work for me. And yeah,
Right.
I was
I mean,
like,
I started watching it, but I stopped it after 20 minutes or something. Not
yeah,
yeah.
I should have left the cinema after 20 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very polarizing, that film. People will either love it
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
hate it. And I don't hate it. I was kind of
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna really say I was bored. I'm never bored of a Christopher Nolan film. He's a genius. Like,
Ah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And the
Yeah.
last thing I saw before that at the cinema was The Invisible Man, which I thought was brilliant, the newest one.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Right.
I really miss going to the cinema. I miss being amongst large
Oh,
amounts of
but
people.
I thought the cinemas are opening up in the UK, aren't they?
I think let me have a look at the calendar. I think in 6 or 7 days, because
Ah,
things have eased to a certain degree here. You can't be,
okay.
yeah, you can't be ignorant that things could get worse. You just got to still be very
Right.
careful. Myself and my partner, we're very careful every day anyway. But yeah,
Right.
it's not. Yeah, it's extremely difficult. Everything's difficult, and yeah,
That's what happened in India. Like people suddenly thought the COVID wave is over after the first wave, and they were like absolute ignorance about the fact that it can reappear, and that's why the second wave is so far more damaging and it reaches far more people than the
are you
first
in
wave.
are you in the second wave now? Is it the second wave now? Is it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because we hear we in the UK with the BBC we hear the numbers that are being talked about in India, and it's
Right,
it's so scary. It's so scary, and it's
you're right.
yeah, that's it, isn't it? Sadly, it's
Like every other guy I know all my friends, including me, who has lost someone to like COVID, like friends
yeah,
or the friend's mother or parents or sisters, grandmother. So it's a very
yeah,
suffocating situation. Yeah.
absolutely, and yeah, I saw someone that passed away next to me in the hospital when I was there. She passed away in the morning at 2 o'clock, and
Oh,
yeah, to see the scale of it is it's crazy, like there's lots of, I would say, ignorant people in the UK and ignorant people in a lot of I'd say all countries that are just going to go, yeah, it doesn't matter, it's not going to affect me,
right,
and which is completely ridiculous. You're not impervious to this. It just depends
right.
on
No one.
the degree how bad your case is. Like when I had it, I had a
Yeah.
really bad case of it. Um,
Oh, okay.
so I was in intensive care for 4 days, and then I had 2 more weeks in the hospital, and it
Hmm.
took me so long to recover. It really did. It was really difficult to recover. Yeah,
Oh,
it can affect anyone at any
that's
time, and
very
that's
sad.
that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's very sad to hear because in some cases it's getting really worse, but for some people it's moderate or light. But I've been seeing a lot of bad cases and deaths also because I'm working as a photographer for a hospital,
Oh
and
wow.
like in the second wave, the situation is from the very beginning, at least the strain in India, and in the second wave, from the very beginning, the situation is getting like real worse. Unlike the first wave, where we have like 1 week time or 2 weeks time to recuperate, and they put you in monitoring for 4 to 5 days.
Yeah,
But from the very beginning stage, it's getting, and also there's a huge negligence on the part of people. There's
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and of course there's a huge oxygen shortage and bed shortage, and
Yeah, I
they
saw that.
really are the
It the fact that there's an oxygen shortage, and I think that as a community in terms of worldwide, we should be supporting, because
right.
there's a lot of kind of greed when it comes to support, like helping yourself way before anyone else and not supporting those that need it
Yeah,
more. It's such a
right.
difficult subject, isn't it? And it's I've seen some of the photographs on the BBC of the wards that have no oxygen, and you need it. I needed it. I needed it to walk 15 feet
Right.
to go to the toilet. I couldn't walk without oxygen, and
Oh.
I'm relatively fit as an individual. So anyone worse off than me that doesn't have
Hmm.
oxygen, and I can't imagine what it's like for them to try and survive this. But I think it's just on a
Right.
slightly different note. You mentioned your photography. I'm just going to find that
Hmm.
now, um,
Yeah.
because I think it's your account. Where is it? Your photography is amazing. I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you very much. That you took the trouble to go through. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna post something on Instagram today, uh, after we
Hmm.
finish, because yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it's refreshing in many ways. This photo in particular, I'll show this during the episode. This one,
Okay. Ah,
I
okay, right,
I think it's a brilliant photograph. I love how sharp your horizon is as well. But great,
right,
absolutely
right.
great. So, what do you shoot on for your photography? What kind of camera?
Hello.
Can
Oh,
you hear
I
me?
I shoot on
Yeah.
a Fujifilm, mirrorless.
Is it like an XT2 or 3 or something?
Yeah, XT20,
Oh,
which
awesome!
is
Yeah.
the model below. Yeah, XT20. So
That
that photograph was shot in the delta regions of Bengal in Sundarban. It's two brothers. So basically, we had a huge cyclone last year. It's
mhm.
called Amphan, and and in the delta region, all the houses were destroyed, and so we used to go there and provide food supply and medicines and all as
Yeah.
a part of a charity program. So there I found these two brothers who and their house was damaged. So that's it. And the island which you see behind,
Mhm.
these are very strange people. That's called Hamilton's Island officially,
Okay.
because the British explorer Hamilton came there and discovered the island. uh,
Yeah.
and but people know it as Marichapi, where a huge massacre happened in the 1970s.
Right.
The government killed around thousands of refugees. So, and that's inhabited by tigers, the Royal Bengal tigers.
Oh,
It's a
wow.
tiger forest reserve. So, yeah,
Oh, wow. There's an island full of tigers. That's incredible.
yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
in Sundarban, the tiger are like also in a very vulnerable state, because of
Yeah.
encroachment and everything
Absolutely, like
surrounding.
sport shooting and
And
hunting. Yeah.
right, and their attacks on humans have also increased. So there's an island in Sundarban which is called an island for tiger widows. You know, whenever a tiger attacks a man, the woman becomes a widow, and that woman has to go to a different island because her husband has been killed by a tiger. So there's an island for tiger widows in that area only.
Wow, that's incredible. Is that
Yeah.
so? Those widows, those women that have become widows through tiger attacks, killing their husbands or their partners. What makes them go to this island? So
So
is it like is it just like common knowledge that widows go there? What how does it become
yeah,
that island of
not all
widows?
widows. Yeah, not all widows, but only the widows whose husband got killed by a tiger. So that's a tiger widow island. And it's a knowledge.
there's a film in
It's
that.
a
Yeah, there's a film.
tradition that has been.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think there should be a documentary about that, about Widow Island.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I think there have been
fascinating.
written many things. Yeah, I mean, many things have been written on it, and
Yeah.
on National Geographic and everything. And there are many people who have been working on this region. And this region is also very difficult region because you can get very little archaeological source from here because the rivers, it's a silty bed, so the rivers are always changing routes every 5 to 10 years, and
Right.
the islands are
Wow.
breaking, forming again and stuff.
Wow, that's
So
incredible.
that mm,
That's
yeah,
fascinating. The Tiger Island and the Widow Island. That's really interesting. I'll have to look up some of that.
right,
That's
right.
really fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, you can look up in the internet.
So, Santazel, what kind of films and movie experiences have you had in the past? What do you enjoy watching?
Oh, so recently, I watched this brilliant film. It's called Eco by Runa Runarsson. It's an Icelandic film.
Okay.
Icelandic or Norwegian? I'm not sure it's Icelandic or but it's an Scandinavian film.
Mhm.
Uh, so and okay, it's Iceland only. Yeah. So what that film does. The entire film is in, I think, less than 50 shots or something, or I don't know the exact amount. So all the shots are unrelated and they are unrelated to each other. Like there's a one long shot, probably a child is crying and her father is talking on phone. you get a sense of what the story might be here. Then out, you are totally out of the story. Then a different scene in a parking lot, two people conversing, there's an accent, out. You are no longer back into the story. So, and through 50 or 100 shots like that, an entire film gets constructed, and you feel you know something deep about the country. You know something deep about that space. Maybe not, you might not know factually, like
Yeah.
how many people live here or whatever,
Hmm.
but you can get the spirit, the soul, how people respond, how people act and behave and everything. So this sort of film also I like, because it tells so much without storytelling in
Yeah.
a very conventional way. uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so that is film I've been watching, and there's several films like even 51 fragments of chronology of chance by Haneke, Michael
Yeah.
Haneke.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's almost similar. This film Eco, which I'm talking about,
Yeah.
it's very similar to that.
One
So
of
even Cache, uh, yeah,
one of our film judges, Akiko Sterenberger, she designed film posters for Funny Games for Haneke. So
oh wow,
she's worked with him designing the posters for
wow,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's
Funny
fascinating.
Games. This now that you are saying, it reminds me. It had a wonderful poster, with that guy's head tied with a sack and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
It
exactly.
was a
Yeah.
brilliant poster. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great film, and he was a great filmmaker.
Oh,
I really enjoy
absolutely
watching his stuff.
right.
I've not seen much for it recently, but yeah, I really do.
Mm.
It's almost like
It,
there's a certain
mm,
time I'll watch one of those films, you know. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, you know what I mean? Because it's
there's
not
a
like
special mood setting.
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not on Netflix where you need to be in a certain mood. I'm in this kind of mood.
certain
Show me
zone.
some
Yeah.
content. Yeah, exactly. Like I
Mm.
like watching I, if I'm in a really good mood, really good mood, I'll watch
Yeah.
something that'll knock me down a peg or two, you know,
Right, right,
because I need to
right,
kind of balance it out. If I'm not feeling
right,
great
right.
about myself,
Mm.
I can't watch anything that's too
Mm.
kind of sour. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it's the same for everyone. There's definitely a time and a place for every kind of
Yeah,
film,
yeah,
really, and
right.
that's what I kind of
But
want.
also, yeah. But also, like that, when you are bit down, even when you watch that sort of film, like quote unquote that sort of film,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
uh, there's a recognition of grief, of loss, or whatever
Absolutely.
loneliness, and that also can give you a certain upliftment, and a not upliftment in the sense start jumping with joy,
Yeah,
but a certain fervent spirit inside.
yeah. It makes you feel a lot more grateful, and it stops you complaining
Yeah,
about small things in life. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
absolutely. That there are people who share grief unknowingly, across
yeah,
the borders, they're sharing the same grief or sharing the same burden. Yeah.
yeah,
So that's what I've been watching, and in Haneke's last film, it's called Happy End, which is considered as the sequel of Amor, and that's also brilliant. That was the last Haneke film I watched, and
yeah.
when Haneke says it's a happy end, you better watch out for the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely a unique one-off filmmaker, and I love that. There's something,
And also the way he depicts violence is
yeah,
absolutely unique.
yeah. There's so much
In most of
tension
his
in it.
films,
Yeah,
right, right. And violence is, in everyday life, not everyone suffers violence hard on, like on the face, like someone. Not every day you get robbed or you get, mobbed, you get beaten up, but there's still so much violence
absolutely. Yeah,
in the way you think, violence in the routine you go through, violence with the things you're frustrated with. So, and he is a master of that. The way he sort of crafts and like
yeah,
makes the violence shine to,
yeah.
palpable.
Because in many ways, violence in psychological or physical violence it's so
Yeah.
generic in many ways in film, and Haneke is really kind of different
Absolutely.
in that way. Have you seen a film called Killing Them
Hmm.
Softly? Have you seen that film?
Oh no, no, no.
It's by
Who is it by?
An Australian director called Andrew Dominic, and Brad Pitt's in it. It's about
Okay, I'm just
a
checking
debt
it out. Yeah.
collector, well, a kind of a mob debt
Okay.
collector, and James
Hmm.
Gandolfini, the late James Gandolfini's in it. It's a
Okay.
brilliant film. And Ray Liotta's in it as well. And there's a scene where
Hmm.
I won't ruin the film, but there's a scene where Ray Liotta's getting beaten up in the rain, and the scene feels
Right.
real. You feel as though you're taking the punches yourself, and yeah, that
Right.
film's like wow. It's Haneke's very similar in that way, and but the way it's kind of edited and the
Right.
sound, you see how
Oh,
important the violence is in the film, because it's quite a violent film, but
right.
it's not like in the superhero violence. It's real. It feels real. Um, but
Right.
when you
It's
come to
very
watch the
visceral.
film,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, because
Hmm.
he gets pulled out of his car and he gets beaten up in the rain against his car, and
Right.
it yeah,
Yeah.
when you see it, and yeah, let me know what you think of it as well. But yeah,
Sure. 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 I'll
it's
watch it
really
immediately. Yeah.
really fascinating, a really great film as well. I love anamorphic. You see, I love really kind of cinematic wide filmmaking,
Okay.
and yeah,
Okay.
it's really enjoyable film, but it is violent. Um, but yeah,
Right.
it feels real. It's not like this kind of cinema violence, you know. Um,
Right. Right.
and I'm a big fan of
Even
kind of psychological
yeah.
violence now. I like watching films with
Oh.
psychological, like someone manipulating someone else. I kind of like how
Oh.
that's
Okay. Okay.
executed in cinema, you know.
Yeah. So there's this guy who he mostly adapts Harold Pinter's plays, and Harold Pinter often writes the stories. I forgot his name. He made this film called The Go Between.
Yeah, I've heard of
It's
that.
a
Yeah,
British director, I think.
yeah, I've not seen it, but
Or
I've heard of it.
even
Yeah.
yeah, and also The Accident. Oh, Joseph Losey. Yeah, so the
Okay.
director's name is Joseph Losey. So he is a master. I think you will really enjoy watching his films. So the violence probably like in this film, The Accident and The Servant. You should really watch Servant. It's just about how a guy, the servant manipulates the master.
Yeah, yeah,
upturns the master slave. Dialectics, and it's
yeah.
a brilliantly written plot
I've
and
heard
story.
the Servant. I'm gonna have a look at that.
Yeah,
Let's just check the
yeah. It's by Joseph Losey. It's a black
I've
and white
definitely
film.
let's have a look. What year was it?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but you can just search Joseph Losey, The Servant.
Okay, I'll have a look at that. Yeah. This is I think, yeah. I'll find that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I love when you see a film, experimental or not,
Hmm.
or narrative, that feels
Right.
really refreshing in many ways, you know, like, because there's so many tropes are very similar across the board, similar stories being
Right.
told all the time. And
Yeah.
if there's a new take on something or a new interesting way of doing something, then like great. Like I mentioned before, The Invisible Man is a classic Universal film that's been adapted a few times in, you know, odd spin-offs,
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But it's from
Right.
the female the partner's point of view rather than the actual
Right.
scientist, and
Right.
it's an incredible psychological
Wow. Yeah.
film about not believing someone because this person's obviously saying someone's invisible, but it's the kind of psychological
Mhm.
impact that this
Wow.
this abuser of a partner that she tries to leave. This is at the start of the film. Is
Right.
terrorizing her even if she can't see him.
Oh,
You should watch it. It's a really excellent film. Um,
sure. Sure.
yeah,
I
it's a really
watch.
refreshing take
Thank
on
you.
cinema. It's so important, isn't it, to watch something new?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And from a very like it questions whatever ideas you have about that text, or how you can perceive certain things and stuff like that. It also reminds me of this novel, The Heart of Dog by Bulgakov,
Okay.
which is about also a scientist in Soviet Russia, and who does experiments and turns animals into human beings, into
Oh wow.
pseudo human beings, like a fantasy. So this novel is written from the perspective of the dog,
Oh
rather
wow.
than the
Okay.
scientist.
That's
So
fascinating.
when we
Yeah.
were talking about, yeah, the Invisible Man, it reminded me of this novel, The Heart of. Yeah,
Is it as though the dog's speaking? Is it from the voice of the
yeah,
dog
yeah,
kind of thing? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
fascinating. Yeah. There's
it's a first person narrative. Yeah.
there's something I'll recommend to you from C.S. Lewis. You know the wrote The Lion, Witch, and the
Okay. Yeah.
Wardrobe.
Yeah.
It's called
Okay.
the Screw Tape. I think it's called the Screw Tape Letters, and
Okay.
basically it's a series of letters. The entire book from the devil
Okay.
to I think it's his son called Screw Tape, and it's about
Okay.
it's teaching his son, this new demon from Satan to this
Okay.
his new demon son, how to
Yeah.
manipulate and turn people against themselves, against each other. And
Wow.
it's
Wow.
really, really, the considering, he wrote Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. When you read this, it's really dark. If you read it, like I read it when I
Right.
was young, I read it about a couple of years ago, and it reads
Ah.
different. I think when you watch a film or read a book at different ages, it
Right.
really means so much. It's completely different because you've
Hmm.
lived a
Hmm.
life, you live 15, 20 years. If you watch a film or listen
Right.
to music or read a book different, at different
Right.
periods throughout your life,
Absolutely.
it'll mean different things to you. And
Because you're a different person. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, absolutely, you shed the skin of your previous self. And
Yeah.
I would
And
definitely
even
recommend that.
literally.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day. Yeah. My dog's
Because.
shedding fur all the time, but yeah, every day, your skin's changing all the
Right.
time. But yeah, I'd absolutely recommend the
Hmm.
screw tape letters. Um, really fascinating, like
Sure. Sure.
how
I'll
to
go through
turn
it.
people
Yeah.
against
I'll
themselves.
get
And
back to you once I.
yeah, please do. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
is it a sort of written in a polemic tone, or is it just conversational, the letters, C.S.
it's
Lewis
conversational.
letters?
It's like
Or is it a polemic against? Mm.
basically he's just he's giving advice, and he's how to be the worst kind of person, how to how
Yeah.
to draw the evil from an individual and turn them against other people. And it's a
But
fascinating
yeah,
read. Yeah,
I mean, can you just imagine the amount of depth, psychological depth Lewis must be having in order to, even write it down
absolutely.
how to be, the evil in person,
I
and
know but
it,
it's not like a
I mean, it
truly,
sounds
yeah,
fascinating.
it's not a truly evil piece of work. It's really fascinating to
Hmm.
see that he's written
Right,
this.
of course.
It's the same writer as all these fantasy books. So yeah, it's I definitely recommend that.
Right.
And that's what I found doing these
Hmm.
interviews. What we get new recommendations.
Ah,
It's
right,
yeah,
right.
it's fascinating. um but yeah, I really thank you for submitting your films. And I understand how kind
Yeah,
of
sure.
therapeutic filmmaking can be, and it can help you through
Right.
a tough spot in many ways. It gives you a lot of focus. Like something
Right.
happened yesterday in our family, and I was so busy, and
Hmm.
we've got so many things to think about. Creativity, or setting up
Hmm.
interviews, or setting up lights, things, you need distractions. And I think filmmaking is a really good place to be. If you're a creative in art or
Right.
any other art medium, it's
Hmm.
it's a really great way to kind of channel your frustration and
Yeah.
anxiety as well. But
Because
yeah,
there is also a certain discipline in filmmaking, unlike just painting in your room or doing,
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
like that was probably what the point of Dogma 95 was, to
yeah,
be to gain liberation and sort of freedom through absolute rules and rigorous rules. So they had these dogma rules and all.
absolutely, yeah. I remember watching a lot
and
of
and
that.
it's also
Yeah,
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my God, yeah. I mean, I was in a phase when I was just gaga over Mantra, and I mean, I still love his work. When his first song,
absolutely. Yeah,
it was brilliant.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Santasil, thank you so much for coming on the Filmmakers podcast. You'll probably see
Yeah,
you'll probably see on Instagram a little poster about when your episode will come out. I'm hoping it'll be middle of next week, something like that, because things are going to ramp up when because we close for submissions on the 23rd, I think. So yeah,
yeah,
it's going to be really interesting, and yeah, I'll post about the best experimental film. It's really difficult that to say what's a best film, you
yeah.
know. So yeah,
Experimental, yeah. Yeah.
that's why
But
that's why
I really like that film, The Red Thread, or it's the Red String
yeah.
or something.
Did you watch it through
Yeah.
his account?
And no,
Did
no,
you,
I didn't watch it. I just saw the poster and the
oh
trailer, and
yeah,
I
when
was
you
just
see it, it's
hooked to it.
yeah, it's I hopefully will get to speak to that filmmaker as well. But yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
little film. Like I've just posted something now about
yeah.
let me find it. You may have seen the post. Let me turn that down. Um, there's a film that Manny this Minutes with
I think you
Mika.
posted the story.
Did you see
Right, right,
this?
right, right. Yeah, I saw the
When you see that
story.
film, it's really interesting narrative. I won't say too much, but it's
Ah,
really creepy. But if Manny submitted a film
mm.
last year, and it was like a Bollywood
Okay.
musical, like a short film about a
Oh,
romantic story about a guy going to see a girl at her house, and the dad doesn't want to for them to be together.
ah,
But this is
to be
completely
together.
different. Yeah. So yeah, Manny's a good filmmaker. So when we show those films, and the most
Yeah.
difficult thing I have in terms of a task is when we showcase the films on the 26th of June on the Saturday online.
Acha, where will acha, it be showcased online or
Oh yeah,
will there
online.
be?
Yeah. So you'll see there'll be a link. There'll be on. It's on our YouTube channel, but there'll be a link. You won't miss it. You won't miss the news.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be really difficult to know how to order the films. You know how to
Right.
put them together. So that's going to be fascinating.
So
One
will
little.
they be up for 24 hours or will they only
Uh,
premiere in a given time?
they'll be up. They'll be up for at least a few days, but the Saturday
Oh, then it's fine. Yeah.
every film's going to be shown, and then the day after is the smaller live
Yeah.
event with myself and a couple of other people and our judges talking about their favorite films. So
Right.
it's going to be fascinating because yeah,
Wow.
like the thread.
Right.
That's a really interesting story, and um, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
it's
Mm.
because it's one thing, and then films change and twist, and that's a good example of that. But yeah, one little last thing is
Right.
if you can send me a photograph of
Yeah. Sure.
yourself so I can use it on the podcast
Okay.
poster. So if you've
Ah,
got like a
sure.
picture you'd like to use, because you may have seen the other pictures of the other filmmakers, so anything like that would be
Yeah. Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, we'll post
Yeah.
about your
Yeah.
photography at some point as well, because it's especially
Ah,
that
thank
post.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Santazel, thank you so much for coming on the Filmmakers podcast, my friend.
Thank you, Alexander, so much for taking time to watch the film and also taking time out to engage with me as well. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
very much. It
um,
was brilliant. One of the very few festivals
no,
that I've
absolutely, my pleasure.
enjoyed.
And
Yeah.
it's my fault for giving you the wrong time zone because I said GMT. I think it's
Hmm.
actually
Right.
BST. So it's
Oh,
I've done this before. I've done this before. I've made this mistake before, so it's my fault.
yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on early as well.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your day. Have a safe and
No,
peaceful
no,
day.
my day is over. It's 11
Oh
or
yeah, of
12
course, yeah.
at night.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, mate.
So,
That's great. And we'll keep in
yeah,
touch. If you can send me that photo
absolutely
on
keep in touch.
Instagram or email, that'd be great.
Sure, sure. I'll send you by email.
Okay. See you soon, my
Thank you
friend.
very
See you
much.
now. Bye bye.
Yeah. See you. See you.
Bye.
Bye bye.